Hello, welcome to spring and my latest market update. First off, an early happy Mother's Day to all those out there celebrating this weekend. Hope you have a great weekend. You certainly deserve it. I admit this is a long one, but I have two very important topics to cover, so please bear with me and I'll try not to take too much of your time. Apologize also in advance. I may be reading a little bit more from the script here. There's a lot of info to cover this month, and so I don't want to miss anything for sure. So first off, our Royal LePage Shelter event in aid of the Women's Crisis Center of Waterloo Region is coming up June 5th and 6th. Every year we try and do a fun event for our clients at the same time, trying to help the local women's shelter. Race the Region for Shelter is described as part scavenger hunt, part amazing race, part road rally, part history lesson, part adventure, part puzzle building, and a whole lot of fun. Personally, seems like a lot of parts. Ticket holders will tour around KW and have a great time for a great cause. You can also contribute by helping sponsor the event and or taking part in our silent auction. All the details are below in this email. Or post wherever you're seeing this, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have. Secondly, the market update. Things are changing out there. Less showings, less offers, less money continues for the second month in a row. It appears the top of the market was somewhere around the beginning of March. As I've been talking about for months, obviously, the continual price increases were not sustainable. What happened? Mainly interest rates started going up in January and continued through February, March, and April. This took away some buyers' purchasing power. As well, we saw buyer fatigue, whereby some buyers had had enough of the craziness of bidding wars. An increase in inventory also played a role in all of this, what with the end of the lockdown and the spring market having typical increase in inventory. Having said that, things aren't all doom and gloom for sellers. Media loves to report on this, but it isn't necessarily so. April's $907,000 average sale price overall is still higher than the $841 to end the year. For sellers, still very good numbers relatively. Sellers were tickled pink at the beginning of the year with what they could sell for, and at this point we haven't reached that level. For buyers, this has been long anticipated and given them a bit of relief from the frenzied market of the past few years. Competing with none or few offers is a pleasant surprise for those used to being up against 5, 10, 20 or more offers. Most sellers will still get above asking depending on the listing strategy used. Some are now choosing the traditional strategy of list where you want to sell. However, it appears to still be critical to use the discounted price listing strategy and hold off on offers. We're even seeing some sellers no longer hold off on offers. Majority of these, however, are ones who did a hold when they first listed but didn't get the desired result. Then they canceled their listing and relisted at either the same price or higher where they wanted to end up in the first place. Of note, canceled listings continue to grow. In the last 30 days, there were 366 canceled listings in our area. I would imagine we didn't have that many cancellations in all of last year, never mind 30 days. Premium locations and properties are still doing well, but again, lower than they would have been at the beginning of March. Let's take a look at the stat sheet below, but I'll give you a brief overview. Unit sales. Year over year, unit sales are down 25% for April. Month to month, unit sales are down 13.4%. However, it's interesting, sales are still up over the 10-year average. Average prices. As I mentioned, average sale price on all products in April was $907,000, down 5.5 from March. So combined with March being down another 5% gives us that 10% or so drop from the top at the beginning of March. Single detached homes, $1,060,000, down 6.4% from March. Remember, we had a high of over 1.2 million for single detached at one point. Apartment condos at $600,000, up 6%. Apartment condos seem to be the outlier and are still going strong. We'll keep an eye on this and see what happens with May sales. Townhouses, 763, down 4% from March, and semis, 785, down 10.5% from March. Listings, 1,277 new listings. That's a 40% increase over the 10-year average. Some of this is brought on by owners catching wind of the change in the market and not wanting to miss out. Interesting, at the end of the month, there were still 703 active listings, which was still below the 10-year average of 1,169. Tells us how light on listings we have been. Days on market and months of inventory remain very low. Still, we're seeing days on market around that. It says 9 days now. When we look at the hold date scenario, that typically takes about 7 days for a price to sell. But now with canceled listings and listings staying on longer, I expect that number of days on market to rise. Where do we go from here? Well, nobody knows for sure. Rates are expected to continue to increase. Do we see a slide towards a more balanced market? Perhaps. Do we see at some point a move towards more traditional pricing strategies like in the old days? Maybe. Will conditions on things like financing and home inspections start to creep back into offers? Well, maybe that too. It's really too soon to tell, but I will continue to watch and let you know. Most likely we've seen an end to the absolute frenzied market for a while, but all is not doom and gloom, as I mentioned. Sellers are still continuing to get pretty incredible numbers. As I mentioned, just not as amazing as they were. And buyers are now starting to be able to make some decisions under a bit more relaxed environment with a bit more choice. Long term, this region, with everything it has to offer, remains a solid area for investment in home ownership and will weather any economic downturns better than most, that's for sure. I know I've thrown a lot at you, but please feel free to reach out with any questions on any of this, especially if you're thinking of buying or selling. There are a lot of unknowns right now, but these are the times I feel my 30 plus years of experience in all kinds of different markets really helps. Whether buying or selling, there's still great opportunities on both sides, and I'm happy to help if I can. Thanks as always for your continued referrals of family, friends, and coworkers. It's always appreciated. And lastly, I have to go back to our shelter event for the Women's Crisis Services. With all social agencies having been hit hard over the last few years, it becomes even more important than ever to help support with these agencies if we can. This event is just a small gesture, but if you can help, please do. Please reach out if you'd like to take part in it or help support this worthy event. Take care, and we'll talk to you next month.